I suppose the rest of my presentation will be structured around the areas of social validity. As Margaret has kind of extrapolated these from Habermas. The four questions. The first of which are is the account of my learning comprehensible? So is it comprehensible and understandable to others? I'll obviously be getting feedback from my supervisor, from validation meetings, from my critical friend as to, does this make sense? Does it hang together? Is it understandable? Hopefully my learning journals and my Moodle and my analysis itself within my dissertation will make that very, very clear. But again, I need to get information from other people, not just myself working alone. I need to get feedback from others as well around this. And also the evolution of Eve Cherryfield Online as a website, and showing, if my learning is built into this, the website that I had last year will be very, very different to the one I have now, and the feedback that I get from my test user group will hopefully reflect that, and if they show that that they have learned, that hopefully it will show that I have learned. And as I said, feedback from users will be very important. Is there sufficient evidence to justify the claims that I'm making? So the claims that I'm making around designing websites for people with mental health difficulties, around living my values within my practice. Am I doing this? Was I a contradiction? Have I attempted in any way to address this contradiction between my values and my practice? So obviously, as I've mentioned already, that the way I collect the data and the way I analyze the data should really make this very, very clear, and should provide compelling evidence to justify any claims that I make. Again, following through with the processes of rigor and validity within an action research living theory methodology, that I use others and the feedback of others and critical friends and validation meetings to actually, tell me if I have sufficient evidence or not. And also, it comes down to action research and to qualitative. One of the core values of action research is that you don't boil everything down to a consensus, that you don't generalize anything, that variety and multiple viewpoints in terms of this will really put my claims through hopefully some very rigorous testing, and a lot of people, from service users to critical friends to supervisors to validation group members, will actually come back and say, well, look, am I doing this right? Am I approaching this the right? Is the evidence there? And obviously, the complexity of those viewpoints are very, very important, and to address, is there a contradiction there? Have I said this is my value, for example, in terms of doing things for yourself? Does my website reflect that? And only by consulting others will I be able to evaluate this. Are educational values within my research clearly revealed and justified? So have I stated my values? Well, I will be stating my values. I have stated my values in terms of my introduction. I really focus in on them in my methodology chapter, that I state what my values are and how they maybe have changed over the last number of months. My practice and me as a living contradiction. Am I a living contradiction? Have I seen areas of my practice which contradict my values? And I hope to, I have to a certain extent expressed that, and I will continue to do that in my dissertation. And then obviously the match between my values and recovery values, because if I go back to my research question, the core thing is recovery, creating and designing a website that is recovery oriented, and that this fits in with the recovery orientation of my service, so that my values, as they've evolved, they've come to match those of a recovery model. Values such as hope, empowerment, doing things for yourself, education, group support, that I see within the recovery model that these are my values and that they match the values of recovery-oriented service. And finally, is there evidence of my learning and the learning of others? So have I shown through my learning that others have also learned? So I suppose the focus group and the interview data will really be the crux of this. That I'm saying my learning has informed my website and how I've designed it at the moment, and the proof will be in the pudding if people come back and say, well, I have learned from this that the Eve Cherryfield website has taught me about recovery, has provided me with a sense of hope, or has provided me with with empowerment, and my focus group and interview questions and the way I will be discussing things with people is, and I have done so already, is around those areas of recovery. So does the website, in your opinion, provide hope? Does it provide education? Does it provide group support? Does it do all these things? And as I say, the evolution of the site will reflect that. Any posts that I've done on Moodle or emails that I've sent to people where we've discussed issues around learning, do I understand what scaffolding is, or do people know what the recovery model is? That I in some way have imparted some of my learning onto others. And then obviously the feedback from the supervisor and critical friend, that hopefully they will, Margaret has already said that particularly my chapter 1 has set my context and has explained the recovery model, and that section in my lit review, that she now understands what the recovery model is, whereas she might not have done before that. And hopefully my critical friend, coming from a completely different positivist approach, will hopefully, I hope, learn something about action research and the living theory approach as well. So thank you very much. I would appreciate any feedback that you can give, and in a blatant and desperate attempt to curry favour with an audience, but also to reflect what I see as my main values and my motivation in my life right now. Here's a picture of my little baby girl Aoife in her Easter bunny outfit. Oh, isn't that nice? Always nice to end on high. So, as I said, any feedback would be greatly appreciated, and thank you very much for your time.